Okay, welcome back. So this is a continuation of the previous one where we were looking at the mixture between one-shots and looped sample or drum samples and being able to extract something from them. Now, in terms of the one that we looked at previously, that essentially moved in a linear fashion. It moved from left to right as far it started at the beginning of the file and worked its way all the way through. Now, whether we chose to do the start point at 0.0 or and then finished at 1.0, that gave us basically a scenario. If we went from 0.0 to 0.5, then we were just using half the file starting at 0. Likewise, we have a similar thing for this one. We're starting the file at 0, but you can see we're just having it as a 3. Now, the way that the loop is being used, and this kind of video could fit equally as much under some of the ones when we've been looking at things like random. But here we're using the parameter called Onset. So if you can imagine a looped file being sort of sliced at various points. So let's say we have a 1-bar file and it's sliced as 16 chunks, right? So onset basically means that where do we want to start in the chunks? So we could start at 0, which is the beginning of the chunk, right? But we could just as much start at chunk 3 or chunk 5 or any number in between any of those and more. Which means that we're addressing it much more kind of like a sliced sample, and very much like how we might sort of see it in different kinds of samplers, whether we're using them in Logic or Ableton or Fruity or whatever. Let's have a listen to this. I'm going to comment out these drums. Let's make the onset 0. Right? Let's make the onset 1. So you can hear it's moved. Let's make it 2. Make it a snare. After the snare, a little bit of a hi-hatty thing. Much more of a hi-hat at 4. So you see, I would start to go through samples in this kind of detail so that you would, in many ways, be able to carve out different parts of the sample. Another snare. Another kick drum, afterwards, and so on, right? But instead of us selecting this manually, which of course we could do, Sonic Pi has this thing called choose. So essentially, this is like giving the computer or the program the opportunity to select something from the available set of onsets, right? So let's have a listen here. I really like that. It's also helped by making the release sort of really quite short. So again, if you want something a bit longer, you might want to try that. You hear it's a little bit fuller, right? And you get a few more clicks. Essentially, all we're doing really in terms of choose, because we've defined the start and finish, we're only allowing choose to potentially be one of 3 positions, 0.0, 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3, sorry, one of 4 positions, let's say. Let's hear it with the kick drum. Because ideally, what we want to be listening for is this kind of cross rhythm type sort of stuff that's going on. Now, it's still recognizably the amen break. You know, the amen break is something that is a highly distinctive drum pattern. But let's listen to it with everything else. And again, you can have a look at things like beat stretching, have a look at the sample rates. One. So when we set rate to a negative, minus 0.5 or a minus 1 or whatever, you get the reverse of the sample. Let's make it minus 1. Now the thing is, a question you sort of need to ask yourself is that you can pretty much do that in real time. I mean, obviously, I'm just changing one parameter at a time to illustrate the point, but you could be changing, setting up a whole bunch of parameter changes and then pressing Command R, and then those changes will be executed, right? So one of the things that live coding facilitates, and more so than, say, once you program something in Ableton, Logic, or Fruity or whatever, is that you encourages kind of constant sort of variation and experimentation. It's different here because we're not trying to physically play the part. We're trying to play a piano part, or, not even trying to get a sound right, to tell you the truth. Really just trying to work out what's possible here. What could I be doing? And it's a little bit different, say, to using a kind of a drum programming method or anything else that we've used up to this point, because it takes us away from the idea of events happening at particular points. So if we wanted to do, say, a classic kind of house track, or we wanted to do Jersey club or whatever, we wanted to do Afro beats, then we sort of go, okay, the drum patterns go like this, and sure, that's fine. But if we're going to kind of interact with them, we want to essentially sort of move things around. Okay, see you next time.